Welcome to the Screen Guide Podcast, a podcast aimed at bringing context, commentary, and conversation to the blank that you love.
I'm your host, Derrick.
And I'm Daniel.
What's the blank that we're filling in today, Daniel?
Today, we're going to space. We'll be breaking down Project Hail Mary, the history of space movies, and our personal Space Movie Hall of Fame.
Plus, we're going to be talking about movie news and the trailers that have come out in the past few weeks.
But first, we're going to be talking about what we've been watching and the Oscars from last week. So breaking down the Oscars, Derrick and I have not talked about the actual ceremony, the actual broadcast since it happened. Derrick, what's your overview? What are you thinking? How was the broadcast for you?
Well, I think the Oscars overall was to be expected in many ways for me. There weren't that many surprises. I mean, we kind of made our predictions in the last podcast. And from what we made and even my personal picks and your personal picks, I feel like there wasn't as big of a discrepancy as I thought going into it. There wasn't any huge surprises, things that we are super shocked about. But at the same time, there was time to celebrate, and there was time that I had a good time with. And then even though it was celebratory, I still had this lacking feeling that the Oscars just didn't hit this year.
I mean, it didn't hit for the audience either. Viewership was down. This was one of the lowest watched Oscars in the history of the show since like 2022. And that's a big surprise because it had these two juggernauts in Sinners and One Battle After Another that really did seem to trade wins throughout the night. There was like a win for One Battle, then a win for Sinners, a win for One Battle. Even near the end, I was still holding on to a little bit of hope for a Sinners Best Picture win, even though PTA had been sweeping the other awards, the director, the screenplay. I mean, I think movies like Spotlight show us that all you need is one other award in order to make a Best Picture win, or movies like Grand Hotel, which had 0 awards the rest of the night. So I still thought maybe Sinners could have pulled it off. And I wonder if part of that kind of lackluster feeling you're talking about is that even though it felt like a very contentious awards race, a lot of the things were cut and dry. It feels like the casting award and maybe the tie in live action shorts were really the two biggest surprises of the night.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think especially going into it and casting went to One Battle After Another, I feel like that's when the wind kind of left the sails for me for Sinners. And I think overall it maybe even just the perception of how big maybe One Battle After Another was. Like, I know there's a lot of talk online, but is the average moviegoer really as in tune with this?
I mean, not really. I mean, conversations I've had since the Oscars, a lot of it goes, how can a movie win Best Cinematography and then not win Best Picture?
Right.
Right. This is what I've heard from a lot of my friends who are not like keyed into the races in general. And that's an okay question. But if we look back, cinematography and Best Picture aren't that tied together. We would maybe say directing and editing are the two biggest correlations between a win outside of Best Picture and then hitting Best Picture. And so it does feel like a lot of people, especially people that were passionate about certain films, were tuning in maybe for the first time this year and just felt really disappointed. But you talked about the internet conversation. And one thing I'm struck by, and this happens every year, is how quickly we move away from the Oscars. It felt like Tuesday or Wednesday came around and all conversations about what won Best Picture or everything, maybe besides a Michael B. Jordan win because he's in contract negotiation for Miami Vice, just disappeared. Even making our breakdown today, I was thinking, is our conversation about the Oscars still relevant? Does it hold water even though it was exactly a week ago? Maybe people have moved on.
Yeah, it really does feel like this discourse machine has finally run its course. Like, we're talking Timothy versus MBJ, PTA versus Ryan Coogler, One Battle After Sinners. And like you said, all of that has lost its steam. And I think people have just left too early from this train. And even for myself, I said this on the pod maybe last one or the one before, the Oscars are meant to celebrate. And there were some big celebratory wins like Autumn Durald Akpa for Best Cinematographer, the first woman to ever win that award, that I was so ecstatic for. And I think the best win of the night went to Michael B. Jordan for his win as Best Actor in Sinners. Out of everyone in my entire space that I was watching the Oscars with, which is mainly my family, they're not in tune with movies like I am, but that is the one award that we almost all got up and were high fiving for. And those were moments that I wish we were talking about more this post Oscars race.
The next day after the Oscars, Warner Brothers already had their Dune trailer locked and loaded. They already had their posters ready. They were ready to move on. They were either ready to capitalize on a Timmy win or just jump straight after the momentum of their Best Picture win. But best wins of the night were definitely Michael B. Jordan and Autumn Drawd Akapa. Those two were really special. But the next day, it just felt like it disappeared.
Ultimately, I think I wanted to ask you about this is did we just feel like the awards race was just too long? Like the Oscars this year specifically was very late into March. And I think that also maybe played a factor is just people were tired. People on the internet were tired.
Yeah.
Just watching interviews of celebrities and people there, they were tired. I think there was an interview with Vagdamora, and someone had asked him about campaigning, and he's like, "We've been campaigning for so long. Typically, it doesn't go this length." And do you feel like that plays a factor into it?
Yeah, definitely. If we think about movies like Sinners being released and then a year later being in the conversation, like Chris said last time, people once love a movie and then completely convince themselves that it's the worst thing in the world. All these films have things to be critical about. But when we jump into hyperbole about this being the worst thing or just a blank movie, it makes it less fun to talk about. But you know what is fun to talk about?
Yeah.
What you've been watching, right?
Oh, okay.
Since the Oscars, you've been watching movies. I've seen you've been logging them on Letterboxd. I don't actually think you've logged everything you've watched on Letterboxd. And outside of the movies we're going to be talking about specifically on this episode, is there anything that you want to put on people's radar that they should check out today?
Yeah, well, spring is here if you didn't know. Spring started March 20th. And so I'm in the spring season. And one of the movies that I highly recommend people watch is A Tale of Springtime, directed by Eric Romer. He has it's a series of movies. He has Winter's Tale, Spring, Summer, and Fall. And the springtime is here. And so I'm kind of going through, I have a box set from Criterion, and that's one that I was like, I'm going to start off the spring season. It's a film about a philosophy teacher interacting with this young girl and her father, and how basically it's this season of newness and becoming. And it just felt like what I think about the spring is about becoming and growing and kind of stepping out winter, where winter kind of is, a little bit dry. The seasonal depression is lifting, and the sun is out. That's how I felt with A Tale of Springtime. So that's one I would put on people's radar. But what about you?
Now, I have one to recommend and one that I wanted to like that just didn't work for me. A movie that my wife and I saw earlier this week is this 68-minute long romance film from 1932 called One Way Passage. This is a doomed romance film where two people meet on a boat, or right before they get on a boat, but two people reconnect on a boat. One of them has a terminal illness, one of them has a death sentence. Neither of them know the other one has a doomed fate. And we just get to watch them be in love. And even though it's this heavy subject matter, it is so funny and so charming. And for me, it represents some of those best elements of a pre-Hays Code film. This is before the Hays Code took away a lot of individuality or a lot of uniqueness that characters could have. And so we really enjoyed that one. And then one that didn't work for me. I don't know if you've watched this. I don't know what your star rating is. Project X, I really struggled with.
You didn't like Project X, the house party. You didn't like that movie.
I think I'm too old.
Mm.
Watching this movie in my 30s for the first time, it is more of a anxiety horror film than a fun hangout film. I like some fun hangout films of high school parties, right? Super Bad, Bottoms. These are movies that bring me a lot of joy. And there were definitely some highs of Project X. There were definitely some really cool moments with camera work. But overall, I just found it exhausting.
Okay, I can't really defend it that much because I feel like I watched Project X like maybe a lot of people too young.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember what year it came out, but I remember being those are one of those movies that you're like coming of age, house party. You think those are what the house parties are going to be like when you are in college or maybe even high school, and it doesn't pan out that way. So seeing it from the lens of being in your 30s for the first time, I could see it being that way. But I maybe have
Those goggles, the beer goggles on?
the beer goggles. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm looking back on it. I was like, isn't it not as high as like a super bad, but isn't it like a super bad type of coming of age, fun house party? And if it's just that, then great. Maybe there's not as much substance as those films from that era.
It has the same quality that a lot of them do, which is it's fun and then it's way more misogynistic than you'd expect. And that's not necessarily something that's gonna make me not wanna watch the film, but it definitely is an additive to what makes the film feel a little bit more cringe than it would have to. But oftentimes, I don't like to talk about things I don't like. I like to talk about things that make me excited. I like to talk about things that get me hyped up, which brings us to the future.
Okay, we got to talk about trailers, y'all. This is trailer talk time. First, we have to start off with the biggest trailer. It is the Dune 3 trailer. It's coming out. I don't know about you. I can't contain my excitement for Dune 3, especially since this trailer is dropped. It is incredible.
I think that the audio design of that trailer is amazing. The visuals, I was a little bit worried about them losing Greg Fraser as a cinematographer, in part because of the movie we're talking about today. Whoever took over, I don't have the name down. You
Linus
have it?
Sandgren.
Linus Sandgren, amazing. Some of those shots just took my breath away, and I got to see it on the big screen before seeing Project Hail Mary for the second time. Looked awesome on the big screen. Actually got to see both of the trailers when we're gonna be talking about, in this little section, and the Dune one just was awesome.
It's so good. I like you mentioned the Linus Sandgren coming in. He's worked on movies like La La Land, First Man, Wuthering Heights, Babylon. He has a great resume, but I was still a little bit worried.
Yeah.
The first visual, the first scene that I saw of Dune 3 trailer, I was like, this is going to be incredible. It's definitely going to look a little bit different from what Greg Fraser does. But I think from what we've seen so far, it's visually going to be pleasing. The
Yeah.
score and the sound is still going to hit as hard from the chants and the score. Hans Zimmer is still at the top of his game. We're introducing new characters. Robert Pattinson's coming in, and I cannot wait for his character. I mean, he looks like he's going to be a who knows? Like people have been
Weird
speculating
voice.
on
He's gonna have a
how
weird
he's going to have a
voice.
weird voice. Visually, he looks androgynous, so who knows what type of character he's going to play. Yeah, and just the costume designs, even the character posters that we saw. That was the first thing that we kind of all saw was trailers coming out, and they introduce each character through their posters. And this is going to take place 17 years after the events of Dune 2, and the makeup looks good, the costume design, the world building. I've told people this, I feel like I'm the biggest film bro when it comes to Dune films. Like I feel like I try to be a little bit more objective and open-minded, and I can be critical, and I'm still critical about
And
these
then Dune comes
movies.
in, and then
Dune comes in, I'm like, don't tell me anything. Don't. This is like I use the word peak. Like when people say mid, I'm like, you can't. It's what are you even talking about? But genuinely, it. This is my Star Wars in a lot of ways, and people. I'm on the train that this might be better than the Star Wars trilogy. This
you're
might
gonna
be
say it's
better
better than
than
the other thing too?
the Lord of the Rings. I will stand on business and say that. That's how I feel about this upcoming end to this trilogy. So yeah, ultimately, dude, I'm Dune pilled.
Yeah.
I'm locked in for it.
Well, I also think the changing a cinematographer in this moment makes sense with the 17-year time jump. Perhaps we're gonna get a different vibe or feel in the world. I'm actually curious if maybe this is gonna be the most dialogue-heavy Dune with bringing a Brian K. Vaughan to do some, co-writing on the script. I've not read the Dune books. I've read the first Dune part of the first Dune book, which is not like something to
I'm the
brag
same.
about.
I'm the same here. I have the Dune book back there, but I never got through it all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, I'm illiterate, so I don't know how to, but no, I mean it's very dense. But I think the first two films, I mean, those are two 5 out of 5s for me.
Yeah.
Especially, I remember seeing Dune. They did a Dune re-release before Dune Part 2 came out, and that was the first time I got to see Dune on the big screen because the Dune came out during the pandemic, and seeing that film on the big screen. I mean, that's what this movie is made for. It's made for the big screen. I love it when directors talk about this is the screen that you're supposed to watch on it. Don't watch this on your iPhone. Don't watch this on your iPad. Dune works best the biggest you can see it.
Yeah. It really is a spectacle. It feels like a blockbuster. It feels like a moment. And the other trailer
I
that we're
was
going to
about
talk
to
about,
say.
I'm not maybe as excited for it as many other people are. I think I don't know. I don't know if it's superhero fatigue. I don't know if it's Marvel fatigue, but we have to talk about the new Spider-Man trailer.
Well, unlike the trailer looked better watching it on my iPhone on a TikTok video than watching it on the big screen. There
Did
is
you
some
watch all the intercuts that they dropped?
No, I did not watch all the intercuts. I don't oftentimes jump to trailers, but these 2 trailers really kind of brought me in. I was so curious on what they're gonna do with Spider-Man in a post kind of memory wipe world. In the trailer itself, it's fine, but the visuals of what the city looks like specifically, just in direct opposition to what Dune looks like. I don't like to use this word often. I'm gonna use a film bro word too. It looks like slop. It looks
Yeah, okay.
like not AI slop. Like I wanna give credit where the to the artist that made this sloppy looking New York that doesn't feel like it's populated, doesn't feel like it's real, even though maybe they shot on location. I know that they oftentimes do shoot in real locations. It just didn't feel as it didn't grab my attention.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great assessment, especially when you think of the older Spider-Man movies, the Tobey Maguire films,
Yeah.
and how those felt like real worlds. They felt so lived in. Like you felt like you're in New York City and you're experiencing Spider-Man actually interacting with real people. And for these Spider-Man movies recently, it almost feels like a soundstage. It feels more artificial in its creation. And that's how I felt about this Spider-Man trailer. Like there's some level of artifice, and the visuals do not help that. They feel a little bit stale, colorless, lifeless. And when I think of a superhero movie in particular, I want life. And you could say a lot of things about, Superman is what I kind of, as a recent example for me, even though narratively there's some things that needed some work there, there was this level of like we're introducing color back into it. Like we're
Yeah.
interacting with the real world, and there's definitely some bad VFX and CGI, but ultimately you still felt like there is life embedded in it.
It really brings up the question for me of what we're looking for in adaptation. We had this conversation with Wuthering Heights. We'll have the conversation today with Project Hail Mary. Both Dune and Spider Man are adaptations of other works. And I get less excited when it comes to the adaptive works of comic books when they're trying to recreate, when they're not trying to just, I want love, I want heart, I want something good. I don't care about MJ wearing the costume she wore in the comics. I don't care about you replicating the exact image from page 3 of Amazing Spider-Man 4. It's less exciting for me if I feel like you are just trying to grab onto the remembers or grab onto the audience by let me show you this thing versus give me a good story, give me something I can be invested in. I don't care if you're faithful. And again, with Spider-Man, maybe we'll walk out of it and we'll really love it. I gotta say, I'm more excited for Spider-Man still than I am for Doomsday,
Yes.
especially after the Oscars appearance from Chris Evans and
And
Robert Downey
Robert.
Jr., which was maybe more embarrassing than the Woody Harrelson moment at the SAG Awards. Either way, I left this week really feeling like Warner Brothers and Dune won the internet comparatively to Marvel and Spider-Man.
I agree. And it's almost like a shift in consumer behaviors. I feel like if you were to tell me maybe weeks ago, maybe even years ago, what are people going to be more excited for? I could maybe bet good money on Spider-Man. Like Dune is still big, but
Yeah.
I mean, Spider-Man is still huge. I don't know what the numbers are on each trailer. I think Spider-Man is probably still bigger if we're talking about view count. So not to discredit people's excitement there, but a lot of people are on the Dune train, which is exciting to see that it is quality, maybe over some of the quantity. And I think people are really, really excited for it.
I just don't think we're the only ones experiencing superhero fatigue. And maybe we're returning back to sci-fi being the new Marvel. Maybe sci-fi films or great epics. Maybe they don't have to be in space, but I think epics in general are what people are going to show up for. And
Yeah.
we'll have to
Oh,
like tune in at the end of the year to see if that's true. But I'm going to imagine, I'm going to place my flag, I'm going to place a bet right here that both Odyssey and Dune Part 3, maybe this is an insane take, but Odyssey and Dune Part 3 will do better both critically and financially than Spider-Man and Doomsday. Is that insane? Is that an insane thing for me to say?
I'm gonna say I'll double that bet. I will double and I'll stand on business with you and say
Let's
I don't
go.
financially is a tough one because
Yeah,
of Doomsday specifically, but I do think there is a level of excitement and even just trailer wise, the way the trailer's cut. Shout out to trailer editors because the trailer
it's an art.
edits on Dune are fantastic. And also, can we mention it's a teaser trailer?
Yeah, that's just
Which
a
I don't
teaser.
what is the actual difference between the teaser trailer and trailer? We're getting into semantics here. I think this is just a trailer, but man, is it good? And I would take that bet and say that these two movies will be better than what Marvel's putting out.
Well, one reason why I'm betting big is the Project Hail Mary box office. It was projected that Project Hail Mary was going to make around $60 million this window, this first opening weekend. Now, based on numbers from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it's looking like it's going to be around $77 million.
I mean, that it just speaks to consumer habits and how they change. And I think this is a great time to talk about the movie that is taking over the internet and
Yep.
has kind of the big blockbuster of the year, which is Project Hail Mary.
Before we start, we are probably going to be spoiling this movie. Some might argue the trailers already did. I wrote a little bit of a brief synopsis. Let me know if I get anything wrong in this little
I got
synopsis
the
that I
book
wrote.
here, so I'll fact check in real time.
We got Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling, waking up on a spacecraft unsure of who he is and how he got there. Grace discovers that he is the sole survivor of 3 astronauts and that he is very, very far away from Earth in a whole completely different star system. Over time, he explores the ship and he begins to remember his past life as a school teacher and a scientist, that he was brought onto a team to help solve the issue of the sun dimming. And it turns out that he's in a one-way trip to get to a sun that's unaffected by the thing that is dimming the sun, the astrophage. So as he approaches this star, he discovers another spacecraft and discovers that he's not the only kind of creature out in space trying to solve the issue. The pilot of the other ship is this 5-legged rock-looking thing who Grace names Rocky. I did write down, Daniel, will you do whale sounds? No, I will not be doing
Try
whale.
it.
No, not happening.
That's pretty close.
And then the film follows Grace and Rocky as they learn to communicate, form an unlikely friendship, and work to save their personal planets.
That's perfect. I just watched the entire movie in my head through that synopsis.
We haven't talked about this. What did you think of Project Hail Mary?
So I'm going to go ahead and say that Project Hail Mary is a 4 out of 5 for me. I really enjoyed this movie. I think this is a very accessible sci-fi film.
Yeah.
One of the things going into this movie is I read the book and I'm excited that I went through it and just got to get an idea for this world. But I was also learning a lot about the history of sci-fi, which we'll be talking about later. I think what Project Hail Mary does is it creates a space for people to enter into space.
Yeah.
and enter into this unknown that isn't so heady. It's not so information driven that you feel like there's a wall between what you are watching and what you are supposed to be experiencing, and ultimately the message that you're supposed to get from it. And people might say that that's dumbed down, and to a degree, from reading the book, it is. Like, they take out so much of the jargon, scientific jargon and information, but I think it's to make it accessible. It's to make it to where if you are 5 years old, you can understand it. And if you are 65, you're also not like, what are these terms that they're saying? You can be on any age spectrum from any place and really connect with the central theme of friendship and understanding isolation, understanding bravery and courage. And I think those themes come through when I watch Project Hail Mary. It's a really good film for me.
Yeah, I think it's great. I also have it at 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I got to see it twice now. So I saw it on March 2nd back at an early screening, and then I saw it on Friday night with my partner because I just knew that she would love Rocky. And I agree with you that it makes space approachable. And I don't think approachability is a bad thing. Oftentimes we talk about art meeting audiences at the height of their intelligence. And for some people this is going to be that movie that really allows them to be brought in. Maybe it'll be an introduction to other sci-fi or other space films. We'll talk about our Hall of Fame later. I think the reason why I'm not 5 is that there were some moments where I didn't I mean, frankly, I didn't cry when I thought maybe I would cry in another moment. And it's not that the comedy undercut some of the stakes. That's what I felt the first time I watched it, where I said that they pull off the balancing act, but I could understand why people feel like the comedy didn't actually do that the second time. There's just really there's some moments of fear, there's some moments of awe, but there wasn't some of the emotion. I can tell how much heart is put into it, but I didn't always feel heart out of it, but I'm seeing audience members go crazy for this. I mean, I have a letterboxed pop quiz sci-fi planned later, and I mean, a 4.4 on letterboxed is insane, and that won't stay, but it's very clear how much this is resonating. It's clear how much we need a film that feels good. The world is on fire. And
Yeah.
sometimes it is okay to want a film that reminds you of hope. All these countries are working together, and these buddies are kind of try to figure it out together. I think that's important. Not to cover up what's happening in the world, but to maybe plant some seeds that other people could also do something to.
Yeah. That hope factor, I think, is what a lot of people are reacting to. There's almost a visceral reaction from when I was watching it with other people, this kind of collective movement of people laughing and crying together. That's what the movies are about. And I think that's what people are experiencing firsthand from Project Hail Mary. I think I'm similar to you, where the depths maybe of my emotion didn't hit as much. But I think there was moments I was like, I laughed with the crowd and I started to feel sad. There's a moment where the sound goes out and there's like you couldn't hear a pin drop in the theater, and you just felt the tension rising with everyone there. And I think that shout out to Daniel Pemberton and his score. His score really is the thing that carries this film in a lot of ways. And I saw reviews of people saying that maybe it carries it a little bit too much because it's trying to make you feel a certain way. But I think for me, that's what
Isn't that
a
what
good score can do.
that's what a score does, no? Like
Yeah, yeah.
how bad that score scores. Yeah, Miranda turned to me once we met Rocky and whispered. Again, we don't like to talk in the theater, but she gently whispered and said, "Is something gonna happen to that freaking alien? Is something gonna happen to this creature that I'm falling in love with again?" I mean, this is after her being destroyed by Arco. I mean, she's gonna listen to this episode and I'm airing her shit out. So but that whole section of both them collecting the astrophage from the planet, okay, not the astrophage, but like the astrophage predator from the planet with the fish hook and
Talmiba.
the Talmiba and them going down there and then Ryan coming back and that whole moment where he almost sacrifices himself for Ryland Grace. I think that is the most successful moment of the entire film. There were some moments, especially on the first watch, where the almost lost level, I don't know if you ever watched the TV show, but the almost lost level use of flashbacks, which I think is in the books as well, can take you out of moments where you'll be really connected to something that's happening, and then they flash back to inform you a little bit more about Ryland's past. And some of the editing in the film, that being an example of it, wasn't maybe the most successful. But I think shouting out Pemberton and shouting out Fraser, shouting out the production design from Wood. I mean, they are working with some of the best technicians and craft people in the business for this film. And I think this film is in a lineage of other 2026 films that show how important the craft people are. We have Undertone and their audio design. I know you saw that in last year, but most of us saw that
Yeah.
this year. We have Undertone in their audio design. We have the costume design and the cinematography of Wuthering Heights. And here we have all of these great technicians. The puppetry, holy shit, the puppetry
Yes.
of Rocky. It shows how when you have technicians that care about what they're doing, and not only that care, not to say that other technicians don't care, but are paid and respected to do what they're doing. We're not getting a Spider-Man Brand New Day looking thing. We're getting artists at the height of their abilities.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. It's people on firing at the top of their game are working on this film to make not a product, but really truly art, truly making something that connects with audiences at on a deep level, because
Yeah.
they're not half-assing it. They're not just like, all right, we're just gonna, put in as much effort here. It's like, no, I feel how much they put in to make this look good. And I think sometimes we take that for granted sometimes with,
Yeah.
Marvel. Sometimes we can just say, at least we got it. And it's like, no, no, no. Project Hail Mary feels like there's effort put in. And through that effort, we're able to experience it on our end and say, wow, this was a really great looking film. This was a great sounding film. And especially in the lineage of sci-fi, to create something that feels otherworldly, that the the shots of Tau Ceti and how that whole space, it just looks so good. And that shout out Greg Fraser and his ability to make things look like that. And I know he's kind of enacted some new ways in the cinematography to make some of these shots happen. And I just am able to sit in the theater and be like, someone in this theater right now, a young person or maybe an old person, is developing a love for sci-fi. They're developing a love for space. They're connecting to this new hope when the world is burning. And so I left the theater and being like, maybe this isn't my favorite sci-fi film of all time, but I see why the 4.4 on Letterboxd stands as it is, because there are people who are watching this that maybe have never loved sci-fi like this, or they felt it's maybe too inaccessible, or maybe in their world right now, things feel like they are so bleak. And this movie is hopeful and whimsical to a degree. And that plays into Ryan Gosling and how he played Ryland Grace, which is a little different from the book. I think the book, we'll talk about those main differences, really dives into this scientific knowledge of who Ryland Grace is. Like, you feel like he is a scientist. And I think that's lost a little bit in the movie, where you're like, he's actually really, really smart. Like, he's not this kind of bumbling comedic guy. Yeah, the glasses and how he wears his glasses. I think someone that showed the way he wears his glasses throughout the entire film is just hilarious. But Ryland Grace is really, really smart. And in the film, he plays this kind of lighthearted buddy character. And there's this buddy comedy aspect to him and Rocky that, you develop this relationship. You develop this love for both of these characters in a way that's through laughter. And I think that connection point is what I was like. At first, I was like, why is this so lighthearted? Why am I laughing a lot? From when the book, I was like, I feel the weight that the earth is about to be destroyed.
Yeah.
And I was like, hold on. Connection point of laughter, I think, is something that kept coming back to me. This collection of joy, this connection of, hold on, how do you connect with the space being? It was the first scene with Ryland Grace and Rocky.
Their dance.
They're dancing. It's like, hold on. maybe that's what we're missing even today is this connection of joy and this connection of laughter.
As a book reader, you've talked a little bit about the differences between Ryland Grace and Rocky in the book versus the movie. I know it's very clear the delineation between one of them is a scientist and one of them is an engineer, a builder, and that's how they're able to accomplish this. Here in the movie, I think that's made a little bit less clear. They just seem like both space travelers in some way. Was there anything that you missed when you're looking at an adaptation or a piece of adaptive work? Is that something you're thinking about?
Yeah, when reading a book for the first time, oftentimes you know that they can't adapt everything one for one. And
Right.
so there are definitely things that are missing, but what they did was they effectively chose the right parts. And I think that's
Mm,
what's ultimately the most difficult part about adapting anything, but specifically a dense work like Project Hail Mary. And the one that I mentioned previously is you kind of almost, I miss that Ryland Grace was this ultra scientific person.
sure.
And even the way the book is written is a lot of science jargon. And so there's so many moments where he's he's explaining an experiment. We're going through like the depths of what this experiment is, and the movie kind of just runs through some of these ideas, and we just get to the end. And I think that's something that I would have loved to explore a little bit more. The other one is we get a lot of inner dialogue from Ryland Grace. He talks to himself a lot in the book, and in
Okay.
the movie, we kind of miss this tug and pull between what he's really feeling throughout this entire process of him exploring space. Well, you still feel it, but I think maybe that's where some people's, if you're a book reader, you might be like, I don't feel this weight with Ryland Grace because he's kind of a little bit more whimsical. But in the book, you feel like you're like, oh, this is a high stakes moment that you're maybe missing. Things that they adapted well ultimately is just they did a good job of this relationship between Rylan and Rocky. Like,
Mm,
I love that they focus on this not buddy aspect, but friendship ultimately between
mhm,
them. And yes, this movie is about saving Earth, but I think ultimately the main thing that I leave about is this friendship between these two space beings. You know, like they're both space beings to each other
sure.
and they're unknown to one another, but they collectively come together. And I think that's what the movie does really, really well is effectively portraying that.
You might even say it was a maze, a maze, a maze.
If you didn't watch the movie, you'd be like, "What? What is he? Is he stuttering over there? What's happening?"
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the Rocky character uh is the triumph of this film in some ways, both the design, the relationship that they have. Do you think they should have hid him from the trailers? I know that was a big conversation with a lot of book readers, is that both trailer 1 at the end of trailer 1 and the entirety of trailer 2 just uses Rocky, and Gosling has talked a lot about, like, this is a relationship movie. It would make no sense to hide Rocky in the trailers, but many people, I hate doing that. Many people are saying, no, many many people complained that this would have maybe had a larger impact had they thought this was a Ryan Gosling Alone in Space movie and then get surprised by a Rocky while watching it.
Yeah, I think that that shift is what if people can make it going into it of this is a friendship movie will be the most beneficial thing you maybe go into because the book almost reads like this space exploration, saving Earth, like a classic almost sci-fi feel to it where you are almost surprised a lot. There's a
Yeah.
lot of surprises that happen in the book where the movie I don't think I was necessarily ever shocked or surprised, but I felt and I was compelled. And I think that is a delineation that I think the trailers, yes, I could see why it's spoiled, especially if you read the book. But if you never read the book and you watch you watch the trailer and then you watch the movie, I think you will have a great time with it.
I think surprise versus wonder is
Yeah.
the difference here, where you're talking about with book readers, there's all these different surprises. And I feel like this film, the number one thing they want you to feel is a level of wonder, whether it is the very unique way that these spaceships fly and the little ballet they do when they're first interacting with each other, or that maybe my favorite moment of the entire thing when I think you talked about the visuals here, but when Ryan Gosling's character goes out and spacewalks and is in that kind of like reddish, he's in the astrophase kind of line, that line, and we just get to sit in that moment with him. And Rocky says, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm just taking a moment." And I feel like that's what this film was more going for and is successful in. But like many films, I am wary about people's expectations going in. One of the things, the trends that I don't like is the amount of reviews I'm reading that say it's good, but a 4.4 good. I would much rather just hear your thoughts rather than comparing them to a letterbox score or review. I, I think I'm worried that people will come in wanting it to be the best thing of all time rather than just coming in and experiencing and allowing yourself to form an opinion. Then you can watch your favorite creators, your favorite reviewers, read. I mean, a lot of reviewers have this like at a 3.5, they have it at a 3, they have it at a 4. Some people have it at that 5, but I want people to go in and just let themselves experience rather than setting an expectation that this is going to be like the book or this is going to be XYZ. Just go and experience, you know?
Yeah, no, I love that. It really is an experience. It's a time that you go and I think wonder is what you were saying. You're going and exploring space
Yeah.
with go explore space with Ryland Grace. Go explore what the
Ooh.
unknown is, like I think sometimes we do have these preconceived notions when it comes to what we even want from a sci-fi film. And if you've watched previous sci-fi films, you could definitely connect this maybe to an Interstellar. You could connect this to a Wally, a 2001 Space Odyssey. And those are all kind of there, but at the same time, they've created something wholly unique. And that's ultimately what movies are always trying to do is to build off of these ideas. It's trying to build off of this book. It's not trying to be the book. And I think that divorce from the book helps it in a lot of ways because it sticks to its central thesis of friendship and connection. And ultimately that is what you feel leaving the theater. And so I really recommend Project Hail Mary to people. And I think people who don't like sci-fi, people who love it will find something from it.
Yeah, sounds like the Screen Guy podcast is putting a big recommend stamp on this
Stamp.
film. So, you talked about this film in connection to the history of sci-fi in general, how it connects to space movies, sci-fi. What is your relationship to I mean, these are 2 different things, but sci-fi and space movies?
Yeah, no, sci-fi and space, I mean, those genres are something that I love exploring. But there's a level of I'm exploring wonder, I'm exploring what the unknown is, these thoughts and ideas of am I scared of space? Am I excited about space? Space is so unknown, kind of like the ocean. There's a fear there of the unknown. And I love that media in general has always tried to explore the unknown, explore our fears, explore joy through space. And I think from where we'll talk about the history a little bit, A Trip to the Moon from George Méliès, that first one that we both recently just watched that
Yeah.
and you could feel that. You're like, okay, what are aliens like 1902 when this short film was out there, silent film, and even to now, what are aliens? What are how do we ultimately as humans grasp our emotions, grasp these feelings through space?
Yeah, I mean, sci-fi, like horror, has always been a conduit to say something about society, what we're questioning, what we're going through. And so looking back, 1902 with Voyage to the Moon, that was 60 something years before we actually went to the moon. But the sci-fi genre and specifically space movies deal with foreign entities, the unknown, especially like I wrote down this quote here that I really love, which is as far as science fiction films, special effects, and outer space goes, there's everything before 2001 A Space Odyssey, and then there's everything afterwards. But I also think we can break it down to there's everything kind of before the kind of nuclear or atomic bomb threat and afterwards, and how sci fi as a tool, and specifically space films as a tool, deal with the threat from above, the threat of what is out there versus our world, the known of our world. And it does feel like in a post World War II world, we had dealt with the threats here. I mean, they're back, but it was more about what is the big threats happening outside of our realm.
Yeah. No, I think that sci-fi has been, I also wrote down a quote from Isaac Asimov, science
Okay.
fiction writers in general. I know. I was trying to do some research here, but science fiction writers foresee the inevitable. And
Yeah.
although problems and catastrophes may be inevitable, solutions are not. And so there's kind of this inevitability with the world that we're living in. And I think what sci-fi is trying to do is to create and conjure solutions and almost try to understand, make sense of the world that we're living, like this weird world that we're living in with, like you're saying, nuclear weapons
Yeah.
and the fears of nuclear weapons. And could that actually happen? Where do we run to for answers? And I think sci-fi is the place that we often go to. And I think we see a rise of sci-fi and maybe space movies in general, but specifically that genre.
And I think you really hit something on the head here when it comes to like working together. Project Hail Mary has both the entire world's forces working together, but also Ryland Grace and Rocky. And a lot of the space movies, whether it is in Apollo 13, which has like this team of Americans working together, or 2001: A Space Odyssey, which has a team of like all these people from the world working together. There is something unifying that I think this does. Now that there are some space films that then like make the government the villain. They definitely can like play on the different elements. And I did bring some props today, by the way, for all
Okay.
the visual watchers, including I'm just gonna just because we already mentioned it, a trip to the moon steelbook.
Beautiful.
There we go. Shout out Portland, Oregon for this one. Has the little booklet as well. But sorry for you, all you audio listeners.
Yeah, you'll be just jealous as I am because I'm looking at it and I'm like, you better close your window.
But I do think space represents discovery in some ways when it comes to cinema history.
Yeah, like there is a threat that is worse than humanity a lot of the times. Like our humanity is what gives us the bond to one another. And
Hmm.
ultimately, that's what sci-fi and space tries to do is to say, if we work together, what can we could be unstoppable. And ultimate like do we actually do that in some films? Like sometimes those films explore the downfalls of trying to work together and the fallout from that, or we do work together but there's still this greater strength out there, greater threat out there. It is surreal in a lot of ways and we can ground it in some actual science that helps us to get there, but it almost to a degree feels timeless because we are dealing with the unknown. And so when you watch 2001: A Space Odyssey, you can be like, yeah, that was made in some, I think a lot of people would be like, yeah, it was made in 2001. And you're like, no, no, no. That was made in 1960, I think it's 8. Like, what an incredible work that you can still watch that even today in 2026 when we're making this podcast and say, it still looks so good. But visually, it still looks like it understood what space travel was and it still feels like it understands it. But even those threats are still present today. It just is a timeless work.
And in some ways, science fiction, whether it is this or Back to the Future, it set the tablet to what things were actually going to look like in the future. Like space stations looked the way that they did in part because of the pre-space race films that kind of set the imagery. It's kind of like the pro version of what Elon Musk tries to chase with his cars or his version of technology of people trying to create the things that we created in film. It's one of the reasons why people question whether Kubrick did the moon landing because of how prescient things film, but it's not necessarily prescient. It's that they set the tablet. They set what things were going to look like.
Yeah,
Now,
they really set the tone.
they did. They did. Speaking of setting the tone here, before we jump into our kind of space hall of fame, before we do that, it's time for the Ryland Grace Letterboxd sponsored Quiz Corner.
Are we actually sponsored by the Letterbox? Not yet, but
Not
if you're
yet, but
listening, please.
shout out Letterbox. Please sponsor us or anyone but BetterHelp. So, I'm going to start with the letterbox corner, and then we'll move into the science or space corner, and I'll go through, and we'll see what Derek knows about letterboxed and sci-fi here. First question for you, Derek.
I'm ready.
Letterboxd recently expanded their list of narrative feature films from 250 to 500 of the best narrative feature films on Letterboxd. How many of those 500 are science fiction films?
Okay. I'm off the bat gonna say there's not that many. I'm going to say around 10.
10 is an educated guess. Maybe that's what the list was when there was
250.
250. We are at 37
Ooh.
narrative feature films. 37 narrative feature films that are in the letterboxed top narrative features.
And did you say sci-fi or space?
I said sci-fi. I did not break them down into
If it
space.
okay, I was thinking about space movies.
I hear you. I hear
So
you.
if you're listening to this, I would have guessed higher.
Well, I mean, I can do the quick math over here to see what of them would be considered space, narrowing it down to the genre of science fiction. Because looking at the list, Redline, I don't know Redline. That is not space, not space. But we got Arrival. Do we count Arrival as space?
Encountering space, so I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, we'll have that conversation. I have some questions about that in our later conversation. So we got Arrival. We have Star Wars because John Frankenheimer II's not space. Vampire Hunter D. Bloodlust. I do not
No.
count as space. Mad Max not space. Matrix not space. Maybe you might be right about the 10. Threads not space. Nausicaa not space. Back to the Future not space. Okay, Solaris. I do not count Inception as space. Wall-E. Eternal Sunshine not space. Metropolis and Everything not space. Alien, 2001: A Space Odyssey. 6, do you count Iron Giant or Akira as space? Now, he does, in Akira, he does go to space.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. We will
But
not
is it
count
a
those.
space movie? I don't
Okay.
know.
Okay, but The Thing, do you count The Thing as space?
It's encountering space. It's like, where are they in the
Okay.
location? You
Now we're
know?
learning what
They're on
Derek
Earth.
considers a space movie because I do have a movie coming up that is encountering space, but I do consider a space movie. But I definitely get that the line is a little thin. Project Hail Mary Space. That's currently 100 on the letterbox 200, the letterbox 500 list. Dune. Do we count Dune Part 2 as space? Most of it happens on Sand Planet.
It's because it's not Earth. So I'm
Okay.
like, it is. Yeah, I
We're
would say maybe
continuing to
space.
learn Derek's rules here.
It's ever shifting. It ever
Okay.
changes.
We got Dune, we got Empire Strikes Back, and we have Interstellar. Were you keeping track at home about how many I just named on the list?
It's like maybe 12, right?
It was 10.
Look, I doubted myself.
You did. You did. I mean, I didn't listen like Spider-Man. I didn't list Stalker or even, I don't know
Right.
if Evangelion. I haven't seen Evangelion, so I can't tell you if that's space or not. But
Yeah.
of the ones I just listed, that was exactly 10. So I don't know. I think we give Derek credit for having the answer. If the question was how many are space movies?
I'll take the pat on the back for that.
Yeah, I think you should take the pat on the back there. Moving away from the narrative feature film 500, we're going to move to the popularity test, the film popularity test here on Letterboxd. And now we're still sticking with science fiction, not space, but science fiction in general, because Letterboxd doesn't have a specific space genre. So, can you name the 3 most popular science fiction films according to Letterboxd?
Interstellar,
Is the number 1.
science fiction.
Science
Dune?
fiction. Dune, part 1 is number 5.
Okay. So is Dune Part 2?
Dune part 2 is number 8.
Okay. So definitely Interstellar, science fiction. What are people? I feel like Letterbox, it does work with this like almost recency. So
Yep.
even though I want to say like Jurassic Park,
Yeah,
it's not
not
going to
even
be
in the
on
top
there
40. I don't even know if they have
Yeah.
that in science fiction.
in science fiction. Okay. Man, I'm blanking because I'm like Interstellar.
I won't
I
hang you
don't
out to
know how
dry.
they will. Yeah.
I won't hang you out to dry. I will let you know that you are onto something when it comes to recency. And both of these films were nominated for Best Picture.
This past year?
Not this past year, but both of them were nominated for Best Picture in general soon. Like in the last 5 years, they were nominated or something else for Best Picture.
You're gonna have to help me out because I
Okay, so one
literally
of
am
them
blanking.
won Best Picture. One of them won Best Picture. So we talked about this on a live recently.
I feel so bad for not knowing Everything Everywhere All at
Everything
Once.
Everywhere All at Once is
Yep.
number 2, and
Uh-huh.
then one of them was nominated, and I don't know if I consider this science fiction, so you let me
Okay.
know. Do you consider The Substance science fiction?
There is science involved with the
Sure.
substance. She takes a substance that's a scientific. So I would say maybe sci-fi horror. I could see where they could
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
delineate that.
3. Eternal Sunshine is 4. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is 6. Inception 7. Dune Part 2, 8. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is 9. And then a movie that you've already mentioned today, Superman, is in the 10th spot. Again, a lot of
Interesting.
recency when it comes to popularity. Another reason why like the Ryland Grace film, like Project Hail Mary being so high, a lot of it has to do with the recency of it. Now, just like our last quiz, when I talked through the popular versus highest rated, we're going to switch to highest rated films in the science fiction genre. I'm going to cut away anime. I will give you the anime, which is Evangelion is the number 1, like
Okay.
of all time, highest rated. And then Gintama, the very final, is also in the top 3 here. So can you tell me what you think the highest rated sci-fi on
Highest rated sci-fi.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say Interstellar again.
In the number
I
1
feel like
spot?
that is definitely gonna be up there. Um, I think you mentioned one of the Spider-Verses?
Yep, Spider-Verse. This is actually Across the Spider-Verse, the one that people hate the cliffhanger apparently is
Okay.
number 2. Yep.
Which I do too. I don't like when a movie's not fully fleshed out in one film, but we won't get into that for this pod.
Sure, sure, sure.
Ooh, is a Star Wars one up there?
A Star Wars one is up there. Star Wars is 4, not including anime.
Okay, 4. I'm gonna take Terminator 2.
Terminator 2 is in the top 20, but I'll give this to you. I don't think you'll be able to get it. I will let you know. I'll give you the director. Have you heard of a little guy named Tarkovsky?
The little guy is crazy. But yes, I have. Is it Stalker?
It's Stalker. Yeah, Stalker is the number 3. We also have the other Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse in the list. And then in the top 10 right now, including anime, number 10 is Project Hail Mary, and number 9 is Neon's Nirvana the Band, the show, the movie.
In the sci-fi.
In the sci-fi, in the highest rated sci-fi here.
I guess it's Back to the Future to a degree, so.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Back to the Future, not even in the top 30. Moving on to the Ryland Grace Science Corner, questions that he might ask his middle schoolers, high schoolers. What I don't know what age they are in the book. I don't know what
Middle
age
school.
middle school. There we go. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask you just 5 questions. Just 5 questions specifically
About science?
about science.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
Now, I will say most of these I would not know. I would not know if I did not
So
put
you're gonna
together the
ask
quiz.
me?
Yeah, because I think you're gonna know. Because like I believe in the education system you were a part of. You read the
Shout out
books.
public school.
Shout out public school. Maybe they said these things in the book. The first one, how long does it take for light from the sun to reach Earth?
How long does it take for Man, let me do some calculations. E equals MC squared. I'm gonna, a softball guess of
And like I will give you it if you get it within 2 minutes. I'll give it if you get it within 2 minutes.
within 2 minutes. Oh, okay. I think it's about at least at the minimum, we are like a million, but I don't know. I don't know what
Approximately 8 minutes and 20
8
seconds
minutes.
is the, yeah. Okay, we're gonna move forward. This is another one that I think might be touched upon in the book. What is the hottest planet in our solar system?
Hottest planet in our solar system is it Mercury?
It is not Mercury, although Mercury is the closest to the sun. Where does the line head to? Where did the astrophage go to in
The Trova line.
the Petrova line? Where does it head to? What planet is the Petrova line?
Venus.
Venus is the hottest here. Okay. Final three here. I know that everyone is following along at home. Please keep
Yep.
track. Email us if I get any of this wrong.
You're seeing how great my education system.
Hey, what color is the hottest stars?
What color is the hottest stars?
Yeah, if there's a hot star, and I'm not talking about like insert
Yeah, I was
hot
like
Michael B. Jordan walking down
celebrity
the
here.
street. Like,
White?
you know what? You're close. I'll give it to you. So they are blue or blue
Blue.
white.
I had it. I had
Yeah,
it here. Yep,
we're
that
gonna
was
give
my
that to
second
you. You're
guess.
killing it.
Thank you.
Okay, final two questions here. What is the closest star to Earth besides the sun?
That's a good I mean, I this is it Tau Ceti? Is that actually it's not Tau Ceti, that's the one that survived closest, at least in the book.
It is
So,
Proxima Centauri.
you know, I also had that. If you gave me more time, I would have gotten it, but
Yeah, definitely think.
yeah.
I definitely would not have gotten it, although I think the word Proxima rocks. Maybe it's related to Proxima Midnight. Shout out Marvel. Final question on the Ryland Grace quiz. What type of star, notice how I generally was focusing on stars here for a reason. What type of star is our sun classified as? What is the classification of our sun?
What do you mean by that
There's
specifically?
names, like there's different
Yeah.
classification. Some of them have letters. This one it either has, there's I will accept two different answers here. I'll give you a
Mm,
hint here.
okay.
Hey, what think about Snow White and the color of the sun.
Yep, it's see, here, you're putting me in an awkward situation because do I say it's a dwarf star?
It is a yellow dwarf. Yep.
Yellow dwarf, okay.
Yellow dwarf star or a G-type main sequence star, which obviously,
That's the one
yeah.
that was here.
This has been the Letterbox / Ryan Grace Trivia Corner. As always, if you have trivia questions you want to ask either myself or Derrick, you can email us at our email address or just reach out.
I got you on the next one. I'll create a quiz for you, don't worry. I'll make them very easy.
Thank you.
Very yeah.
Well, that's so kind.
Just like you've done for me.
So we talked about Project Hail Mary.
Yep.
We did it. We put it in the books. Now we have a task. So we're each going to present our favorites here, 3 to 5 favorites. I did bring props. I brought some extra curriculars of what we consider our favorite space movies, what we would kind of put into a time capsule or a space pod to send out into space so that aliens know, what we think of them in some ways. Derek, do you want to go first? What do you got?
My favorite space movie
Mhm.
of all time.
We're going number 1. We're going number 1. Let's hear it.
Well, I mean, I could go start from the bottom. I don't
No,
know.
no, 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 no. You hyped it up.
No,
You
no,
got to
no.
go number 1. Let's
Okay,
do it.
no. I can't do number one. That's too anticlimactic.
Okay,
Yeah, we
okay,
got to
okay.
save it for the end. I'll save it for the end. But I do love Danny Boyle's Sunshine. I don't know if that's my all-time favorite, but when I watch Danny Boyle's Sunshine, the editing on that film is incredible. I think if you've seen the 28 Years Later series, then you kind of understand how Danny Boyle's editing can sometimes be. It's interesting to say the least. But I think it explores. When I think of science fiction, I think of space. It has this exploration, and I can't spoil it because you have to truly watch it. Have you seen Danny Boyle's Sunshine?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm not the one who found the collector's edition out in the wild.
If I should have brought it. It's down there. But Danny Boyle's Sunshine explores human condition, but also extraterrestrial. It explores some really rich themes. A lot of them may be inaccessible and a little bit too, not even just heavy, but just there's a lot going on in this film. But I love the cast. It has Michelle Yeoh. It has a star-studded cast. But yeah, visually it looks stunning. And so I would put Danny Boyle's Sunshine as one of my favorite space movies of all time.
I love that. I haven't seen it yet. I'm very excited to see that. That and Moon are 2 space movies that I really want to see soon. Now, I don't know if you'll count my first one as a space movie. So even though I have this rated higher than some other things I brought, I wanted to kind of run by if you consider some of these space. Now, I know you said you do not consider Akira space. I hear you.
Do
I
not.
got you. Now, a question for me would be, do you consider Nope space?
Man, it depends on who you're asking.
Yeah, I mean, and
And
I'm
also,
asking you, and I'm asking you.
depending what day you catch me on. Because I guess to me, it's sci-fi. I think there is almost this delineation where space is a subgenre of sci-fi, but I think it's almost this classical, you're on Earth
Yeah.
facing something from space as opposed to being in space and the threats of that. And there's like maybe other examples like Close Encounters of
Whoa, 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 whoa,
yeah,
whoa, whoa, whoa. Wait, because I'm hearing that Nope doesn't count. So that means that Arrival doesn't count. That also means that E.T. doesn't count. But here's the thing. I do think Close Encounters of the Third Kind, out of all of them, I think it counts. And even though Nope, E.T., Arrival play with the same toys that Close Encounters, I think, especially not to give anything away, but I think the interactions, I think what happens at the end, I think for me at least, it is the most space of these Close Encounters films. Now, I can understand not counting an encounter film, like saying that maybe like an accounting a counter film with space isn't a space film. I might I think I might have a different, read on it. I think I do consider all of those space films in some way, but of all of them, if I'm going to bring something in, it is going to be the most man, Steven Spielberg should have gone to therapy before he made Fableman's movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I got to see this on 70 millimeter. Now I have this version, which another one I got in Portland, which comes with 3 different versions of the film, and I mean, I think this is sci-fi at its best, and I think its depiction of our relationship to space is really informative and also gets referenced in a little film called Project Hail Mary in some of the
there you go.
sounds that Rocky makes. So yeah, that is my first. If you do Sunshine, I will do Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Where are you going next?
We're off to a great start. And I think to delineate sometimes, maybe in my mind, when I think of space is almost space travel. And
Mm,
so maybe there's that level of they're not traveling to space, but I do think if we're talking space in general and how it interacts with humanity, then you could really make a case for Nope and Akira and these almost alien type of beings. But my second film,
yeah.
which I do have somewhere here on my bookshelf, is definitely Wally. I mean, maybe it's going to be on your list too, but what Wally does exploring, I mean, it's maybe one of the closer comps to a Project Hail Mary than a lot of other sci-fi films. Just space travel, isolation, friendship from unexpected places. Even the destruction of Earth. There's so many themes that
Yeah.
Wally ties into a Project Hail Mary, but I think even its animation, when I rewatch Wally, it's still one of the best Pixar films in my opinion. So I'm gonna put that on my list of all-time great space movies.
And you know what I like? I really do enjoy Wally. I didn't put down Wally here, but it is on my my privated space top 20 list. So definitely love that one. And I do think it's in the top 5 Pixar conversation. Haven't seen Hoppers yet, so maybe that conversation would change, but
Probably not.
probably not. The next pick I have, and I'm so sorry that I just like grabbed my physical media and didn't tell you. This is called Learning on the Job, everyone. But my next pick is a film that I think a lot of the internet has turned on, but clearly from Letterboxd, it hasn't. Because I'm going to shout out Miss Nat Marie here with Interstellar as a top 5 space film, especially in its depiction of space travel. I think that this is a really special film. It's not in my like top 3 Nolan films, but I think that the way that the spaceships move, I think is just really great. And especially the water planet scene is so good. Like when this dude right here, if people can't see it, when he aged like that takes my breath away. I think without Interstellar, we would not have The Martian or the Project Hail Mary and the way that they look and feel.
Yeah. I wish I was as big on Interstellar as other people. It's not even this is less of hate, but I think how maybe some people feel about Project Hail Mary and that lack of emotion sometimes.
Yeah.
That's just how I feel with Interstellar. But visually and production design, how it's crafted, you're never going to catch me hating on Interstellar any day of the week. So I think that's a great choice. Moving on for my third space movie. Man, it's just going through this was tough
Yeah.
because I was like, what are my all-time favorites? And there's a recent watch of a film that was truly incredible, and it's this Czechoslovakian new wave film which I maybe
So
sounds so
yeah, we're
pretentious to
getting a
say.
film bro over here.
Hey,
You're like,
I
you
had to
went
tap in.
Interstellar, and now you're like, "I'm tapping into this Czechoslovakian film."
People at home were like, okay, who's this guy? But it's called Ikare or Ikarai XB1.
Okay.
And this movie, from a production standpoint, we're talking about form, we're talking about costumes, we're talking about how space looks, is fantastic. It's from 1963, and it's this crew who embarks on a long journey across the universe to search for life on Alpha Centauri. And does it all make sense sometimes? No. Narratively, is it a little bit weak? Sometimes. But there's something about, once again, I'm talking about this timeless feeling of sci-fi. When I watch a sci-fi film and I look at the visuals in this film, I kind of was like, is this an all-timer for me? And
Mhm.
I sometimes don't want to feel pretentious, so I can't say this is an all-timer for me because it's like, am I just doing it because no one else has seen it? But maybe a little bit of that, but even doing some research on this film, I do think there's maybe some influence that people don't know from watching this film. And it was lost for a long time. There's also a adaptation from America that they made that was took out some of the scenes from the Czechoslovakian version and the fears of nuclear war and even America and our relationship to the USSR. So there's a lot here to unpack that I kind of want to give a shout out to. So Ikari XB1 or Ikare XB1, highly recommend.
No, I really love this suggestion. I haven't seen it, but I think it lives up to the screen guide ethos with putting some films on people's radars, right? Like, I will admit, I went mainstream, but I will definitely be checking this out, putting it on my watch list because that's what we're supposed to be doing here is kind of not only highlighting what we love, but what we think other people will love as well.
And can I say too, I think the when I was thinking about space and the space race in general, I was like, we have to put some film from the USSR, the Soviet,
Yeah.
just to even understand this time period. And so I haven't seen Solaris from Tarkovsky, which I hear is incredible. So watching this, I wanted to get something in here that speaks to that time and era, and even we can feel those reverberations today.
Love that. I think my next pick, going to my third, is maybe our first crossover. You'll let me know. Now, this is one you did say you consider space, even though it's less space travel. It's more just takes place on other planets. And we had a conversation about this franchise today. I'm going Dune. Is this on your list?
Yes. It wasn't not the first one, the second one is.
Okay. I don't own the second one. I'm
Okay.
I'm waiting till I find it in the wild on 4K. Maybe I'll find it. Like I think you have the steelbooks, perhaps.
I do.
Yeah, look at you, steelbook head. But yeah, I just think the Dune franchise, it's almost the opposite in Hail Mary when it comes to approachability. Like this is one that, using my wife as an example again, before the second one came out at home, we put on the first film, and even before they got off their actual home planet, she was like, "Nah, I'm out. I'm good. You can watch this on your own." I mean, which is
It
fine,
makes
right?
sense.
Like
It's yeah,
we
there's a lot
we
going on.
there's a lot going on and we like different things. We have a lot of crossover, but there are some things just are not going to be for her. And so I think Dune is a little bit more dense than Project Hail Mary. Dune is just this like lived in world. That denseness doesn't make it any worse. I actually think it makes it a better film. This is a 5 out of 5 for me. Both, I kind of lumped both Dunes in together here. Dune just rocks. I mean, I have Lynch's Dune here as well, just for like, shouting out where things come from. But I think what the modern Dunes do is they make the book, it makes it feel like you can approach it. Even though it's dense, I think it is more approachable than the books themselves.
Oh yeah. Going through the book, you're kind of, which sci-fi in general, and you kind of always met with these names, and you're trying to like, what name was that? What planet is this? What character name? And even when you watch the movie, you're kind of like, you're having to remember so much information
Right.
before you actually get to how should I feel about it, because you're just trying to like parse between what's what. But I think Dune movies do a good job of really making you get to those themes so quick. So I love that pick. And I would put Dune 2 on my list, or Dune on my list. I think that's an incredible flick. And speaking of being, we have to go popular. 2001: The Space Odyssey. Like I have to. We have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like I've mentioned this before. There are movies, yes, some more crossover. If you're listening, he's showing his 2001. Is that a VHS?
So I got the 2001 VHS and the Arthur C. Clarke book of 2001, the 25th anniversary collection. I don't own 2001 is actually the only Kubrick film I don't have in my collection. I have a poster on the wall in this office, but that's the only one I don't own on like Blu-ray or 4K. But I do have this that we found for $1. And I also have this book that my dad gave me. So, have a little bit of collection. Haven't read the book yet. Again, like I said, illiterate. But this was also, I don't want to cut you off. I definitely want you to continue where you're at. But this was also on my list. This was my number one, but I'll save my number one for a different film.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's probably more sentimental attachment to it. I mean, if your dad gave you a book and other things, for me, I just think
Dope.
I think it's one of those, it's dope. Yeah. It's also just a film that you watch and you understand why so many other films have been influenced by 2001: A Space Odyssey. I've said this word a lot. I've said maybe two words was wonder and timeless.
Hmm.
And timeless is 2001: A Space Odyssey for me. I could watch this 50 years from now and still feel the sense of eeriness, the same sense of awe from its production design, from how it interacts with, HAL and robots and artificial intelligence. It almost feels predictive in a lot of ways, like
Yeah.
to how we're living. And I think we have society almost matches what that movie is. It feels eerie to think about 2001: A Space Odyssey, like you're mentioning, like the space station and AI and how it interacts with humanity and robots in the same way. It's like s- Kubrick was cooking. He was doing
Cooking.
something that we were unaware about, and I think generations will still feel the same way about this film.
Yeah, this is one that I had seen a few times. Like my dad showed it to me very young, very young. This was if you saw my parents' videos of top fours, this was the second film that he listed, a film that he saw a number of times in theaters. And the first time he showed it to me, I fell asleep. I was I was too young,
Makes
I
sense.
think. And then I saw it again, and it wasn't till the third or fourth time where I got to see it on the big screen. I got to see a 70 millimeter print last year, and that's when it got bumped up to that 5. Because this is a type of film, especially when you see it on the biggest screen possible, there's no way you can be bored because there's always something that you can look at. There's always something that you can take in that can help prompt a thought. Movies like this, I don't think it's bad if your mind wanders into the world. It's kind of like we talked about Resurrection, where like if your mind is wandering on the thread of the movie, I think that's what the movie is supposed to make you do. And there are times like the beginning of this film on 70 millimeter, the first 10 minutes, the screen is black and it's just your orchestration, but you're in it. And then we get that introduction. I think that this is a space movie. It also has like the beginning and the end, which make it like more of like a film about all of life. There's a few films where I describe as like life films. There's Yee, there's Arco from this year, and then there's 2001, which just feels like every element of being alive is contained in one film.
It's such a beautiful film. I might have to watch this soon again just to not to feel something, but to almost like sit with. Like it's one of those movies that you meditate on
Yeah.
and you let it kind of just wash over you. So easily one of the best sci-fi space movies of all time.
So where are you going for your number one?
So this is maybe where I was like, maybe I should have put this a different spot. But the number one movie for me is Treasure Planet
Eh,
from 2002. I almost had to go back to my roots and sentimental value, even though I don't like that movie as much. But
what are we doing? Why are we taking shots like that?
hey, I feel like at this time, at any time I can, even though I don't hate it, it's still at 4 stars for me.
It's still four
Uh,
stars.
Treasure Planet was my sci-fi awakening, and I love just saying awakening sometimes because it really is the one movie I feel like I remember watching in a theater really, really young. I think it came out 2002, 2003, around that time. And I love animation
Yeah.
and I love sci-fi. And I was trying to think of the movie that was the catalyst for that.
Mm.
And Treasure Planet is that movie for me. There was this sense of exploring the unknown, the intergalactic, the I forget the pirate characters, but even just this idea of being in space, becoming who you are through the space world. Treasure Planet for me is just it's so good, and I so sad that it flopped at the box office. I know I was there. So wherever everybody else was, I'm looking at you because the fact that we let this movie flop is crazy. And also, Criterion, if you're hearing me, I think this would be a great movie to restore because I also have it on Blu-ray, and I would love for some rework on this animation. But yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is
Jim
the
Hawkins.
voice actor. Yeah, yeah. Emma Thompson's in it. Like, it has so many great voice actors and people, but I think it's one of those movies that has really stuck with me over the years. And it's one of those when I was making this list, I could not leave off. Like, I had to say that this is my favorite film because it's made me who I am today. If I did not watch this movie then, I don't think I'd be the cinephile I was right now. So, shout out Treasure Planet for what you did for my life. If you've never seen this movie, highly recommend you watch it. Now I probably would say watch Project Hail Mary, like low key, like that's how I felt watching Project Hail Mary in a lot of ways. Is there's this whimsical, charming nature to this film. I'm starting to cry over here.
Honestly, like I'm feeling very touched that you're like, you're going in on this. And I should have guessed this was your number one when I did that Criterion series. This is the film that you begged Criterion to add, and I knew it meant so much to you, but for some reason it didn't even come. Like I didn't think of this in your top five, and I'm feeling very like it means a lot to me how much you're talking about how much this movie meant to you.
Yeah, shout out 2D animated Disney because it raised me in a lot of ways, but yeah, it means a lot to me, and if I keep going, I might start crying. Which crying is great. Now, I'm not gonna say it's bad, but when I start crying, my words just start to get crossed. So I'm gonna leave it at that. That Treasure Planet is my favorite sci-fi space movie.
I love that. Before I go to mine, which is also a childhood favorite, I think a thing that like changed my life in many ways. I wanted to run down my kind of honorable mentions, things that I thought of as I was going through my collection of like what maybe you would say or what I think someone might want to hear. And so I did think about the beginning of Planet of the Apes. Now this turns out to be not a space movie or series, but I think especially the spacecraft landing. Also, I get to show off my 50th anniversary
Really cool.
box set right there. I think that might come up for some people. Fifth Element, I think for a whole generation, the kind of Luc Besson world he creates is something special. We have kind of lost a director to this world, but the Avatar series is,
Yeah.
I mean, talk about building a world, making something feel real special. And I think that every single film has kind of like built upon that. I was a fan of the newest one as well. I think they're all like classic 4-star films. When you talked about like kind of needing something that represented the Russian space travel and all of that. So I do think having something for the American space travel, having Apollo 13 as an honorable mention, this is a really great film in general. And I haven't seen First Man yet, even though I own it. So I think if we have a film that represents what we actually did, this is one of the most iconic like childhood films for me, especially like those
Okay.
90s. Now, I don't know if you'll count this as space, but I definitely grabbed it anyway. Blade Runner. There's space elements. We're on a different world if it goes by by your rules.
And my rules are fluid, so
Fluid. And then final two honorable mentions. I can't believe we've gotten this far without mentioning the Alien
mhm.
franchise. I think the Alien franchise, especially the first one, is space travel, and then after that, we definitely get into these different worlds. There is a world in which they could have advertised this film, kind of like Project Hail Mary, made Rocky feel like that xenomorph, but then he's actually nice and cuddly. And then this kind of transitions me to what I'm picking, but I did want to mention another film that my dad showed me growing up, which is Spaceballs, which is great, just a great one. I almost threw that on this morning, but instead, what I threw on is the first in a series that represents the best, to me, the best space movie it's ever made, which is the Star Wars franchise, the original trilogy specifically, I wrote down Empire as an example of what I think space does space best, but I do think A New Hope is a really great comp for this when it comes to the wonder. Right, we talked about wonder with Project Hail Mary, and Empire doesn't necessarily have wonder. It has surprise, it has awe, and it has terror. But A New Hope has wonder. It has Luke staring at those binary suns. It introduces us to an entire world. It introduces us to George Lucas's insane brain. I don't know if I would love movies as much as I do if I didn't get this box set when I did. I don't know if I would love science fiction as much as I did if I didn't get this. This was introduced to me actually not by my dad, but my dad's friend Dan. Like we were visiting them and they sat me down into a room. I think they just wanted me to go away. And I watched all three in the same day on
Yeah,
these VHSs. That's how I saw them for the first time. But
yeah.
this is space to me. The way that they traveled through space, the way that they timed, they do the run, or they the crawl, the way that the planets look, going to these different planets. I don't think we would have Dune without Star Wars. I mean, we wouldn't have Star Wars without Dune. It's interesting, right? Like we wouldn't have
Yeah.
Star Wars without the books, but I don't think we would have the success of the movies without how successful these films are. As much as I talk about Silence of the Lambs as the movie that got me into movies in like a serious way, I think that these got me into movies in a wondrous way.
That's well put. That's so good. I almost started crying on my end. I didn't grow up with Star Wars in that same way, but I know how it's permeated all of life almost, pop
Yeah.
culture, people's relationships, specifically with movies. And so it would have been crazy if we didn't mention it at all. I feel like we would have had some angry phone calls or text messages, DM, something, if we didn't
Yeah.
say anything about the Star Wars franchise. And also someone's honorable mentions for myself
Let's
that I
hear it.
wanted to say. Starship Troopers is hilarious. Paul Verhoeven, I believe that's how you say his last name, but is an incredible satire on fascism with some shoddy CGI at times, but it's still such a good movie and I think is so relevant today. And I had to shout that one out. Event Horizon, if we're talking about some space horror,
Mhm.
um, I think it's so cool. We could have gone on a whole tangent and just about space horror. I think there's a whole subsection of the horrors of space and what that looks like. And I think that's a movie that also just speaks to that. Shout out Mickey 17. Like
Okay.
I know people have their thoughts on Mickey 17. I enjoy it more than most people. I feel
Mhm.
like I do really enjoy the production design. And then lastly, Guardians of the Galaxy, specifically Volume 3 for me, if we're talking about emotions in
That's your number
space.
one?
But no.
Okay.
Number one is Treasure Planet.
No,
Number
no, no.
one
I
is
mean,
Treasure
like
Planet.
for the Guardians, like Guardians 3 is the
Yes.
most successful?
Yeah, I think I would go 3, 1, 2 is my order. I know people probably put 1 in there, but I think I like the depth that 3 got me. And High Evolutionary is one of my favorite villains, I think, in the Marvel series, and the focus on Rocket there as well. But those are some that I would mention. And then The Martian, direct counterpart to Project Hail Mary is as a comp and a movie we need to talk about, and E.T. as well.
It's crazy that we're like 2 hours in and we're now mentioning The Martian.
I do think if we go back, we did say a little bit about it,
Okay,
but
okay.
just the
I'm just making
connection
sure.
to Andy Weir and this movie,
Yeah.
I
Tried to
think
throw that
is
on today, but don't own it and it's not streaming anywhere. So this morning I was like, I wanna watch a space movie to get in the headspace, and I wanted to watch that one, but, gotta find it somewhere. So if you have it and you know where I live, you can send it my way.
hey, shout out physical media.
Shout out physical
That's
media.
not streaming anywhere.
So, any other space thoughts before we fill in the space of what we're doing next?
I like the transition. What are we talking about next?
Uh, that is something I was thinking about. I was, like, looking at the release schedule coming up. I mean, we got Forbidden Fruits coming out, so we could do kind of like horror. I know there's the re-release of Ben-Hur, coming out on March 29th. We got the Mario Galaxy movie, and we could do, like, something about, like, video games. But we also don't need our next one to be covering a specific movie. If you do have a specific genre or films that you want to hear us talk about, you can always email us or you could reach out to us on any of our social media apps. But Derek, do you have an avenue or direction where you want to guide us next.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be maybe fun to talk about video game adaptations as a whole. I think talking about Super Mario, I kinda was not as big on the first film,
Yeah.
but the new trailer to me was kind of fun. I think there's some added fun elements. The animations was not really an issue. I was kinda like some of the voice acting was not per my taste, but
Sure.
I think it would be fun to maybe dive into that, but I'm open to anything, of course.
Yeah. I mean, now that the Oscars are over, Derek and I really get to allow this podcast to spread its wings in some ways. It provides us an opportunity to get to dive into the corners away from like the big prestige awards movies and more to our little passions, niches, interests. And, you know, I'm a video game player. Haven't played in a little while, but I definitely have played my fair share, watched my fair share of video game movies. And I think we are in an age where the video game movie is overtaking the superhero movie or the comic book movie in some ways. So that might be a great direction to go. Also, I wasn't planning on seeing that movie. So now it would give me a reason to go see it.
Yeah, you're anti-animation, so
Whoa,
that's
whoa.
what I heard.
Is that what just happened here? Is that, did I just get, no. Big fan of animation. Arco, top 10 film for me last year now. I think I'm less interested in the Minecrafty, like the child game genre. The Minecraft, the Mario movie did not work for me. And so I wasn't drawn to this, but within the lens of this podcast, I think it would be really interesting to explore. And yeah, so I'm definitely open.
Well, I have some video game questions and quizzes. So I'm just saying, if I'm trying to stump you,
I think that'll be a good
either
one.
way we go. Yeah.
So Derek, where can people follow the pod, follow you? Where can people check you out?
Well, you can check me out here on the Screen Guide podcast. We have Spotify, we have Apple Music, we are on, or Apple Podcasts per se. We are also on YouTube at the Screen Guide podcast. So check us out there. You can check my personal socials at Simi Views, SIMI .views on TikTok and Instagram. I got to get better on YouTube, but you can catch some YouTube shorts if you're on there. But yeah, I highly recommend you check out Daniel. He is killing the game right now, Daniel Film Therapy, on most of his socials, but he can give you more specifics on where you can find him.
Yeah, you can always find me at Daniel Film Therapy, both on Instagram, YouTube, and my main platform is still TikTok. Streams almost every single day, and we'll continue to release this podcast. I think now that the Oscars are over, outside of a honeymoon or a trip, I think we're going to be a little bit more consistent in releases. And I really do hope that you tune in to the Screen Guide podcast. You've been listening to the Screen Guide podcast, and we've been your guides.
And we filled in the blank with Project Hail Mary and space movies.
Put it in your ears.